Hello,
Okay.
everybody. Welcome back to Fly the Coop. I am so excited to introduce you to my guest today, Bill O'Connell, also known as Billy, William, and all kinds of other names we're going to talk about. Welcome, welcome, Bill. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me.
Absolutely. So
Thank
tell
you.
everybody, where are you from, Bill? Where are
I
you right
am
now?
from the beautiful town of Scottsdale, Arizona.
Love it down there.
And yes, and we are experiencing better weather than you guys right now.
Yeah, you think? I don't think that's hard to do. At all. I want to share before we dig in. So, we have so much to talk about with all of you. All of us in Minnesota love warm climate states, and Arizona, Bill, is a big one. I want to share with everyone your friendship with my newly found and loved Kevin Coulter, our new sales director of the Cari Ann Carter Group. You and he are longtime friends, and he highly recommended you. And of course, with our interest in exploring our partnerships in warm climates, it was an obvious to bring you on the show today, especially now.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Cari Ann.
hmm So I wanted to visit with you because we have like a three-part, I call it the perfect trifecta when it comes to where we live in the country, highly desirable, very rooted, and our partnerships in warm climates because of our weather, which we're experiencing right now. We're supposed to have this epic storm, which was sort of epic, not really. I think we have 18 inches out here, and we've got a huge population, Bill, as you know, of people who want a break. And we'll look at one of three things: VRBO, investment property, second home property. That's an investment as well. And they'll VRBO it and use it when they want. And just plain investors who love the idea of buying property and renovating it. And maybe they keep one of them and use it on occasion. And then they cash flow that and sell the rest. Just tell us, I know you're very involved with all of that. Tell us what your take is right now on the market, A, in Arizona, in Scottsdale, and B, what can you share with the audience that they may not know already about the advantages of having an investment or second home in Scottsdale or in the Arizona area? There we go. That's the
Okay,
foundation.
so yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot
Yeah.
to start with. But in
Yeah.
any event, as far as Arizona goes, we are very, very low on inventory. Just prior to the end of the year, we got up to 21,000 homes on the MLS.
hmm
We are now back down into the 15,000 range,
Oh, wow.
which seems, for a lot of people that might seem like a lot of homes, but in reality, you're talking maybe a 2.5 to 3 month supply. We're
hmm
selling about 6,000 homes a month.
Okay.
So the challenge is, aside from the interest rates, that's slowing things as far as the purchasing down. But in terms of our inventory, it's really not moving the needle a bunch as far as lowering. So we're not, when everybody's talking about the big crash and what is happening or going to happen to Arizona as a
hmm
whole, and
Right.
Phoenix being the largest metro area, there's not a lot of inventory, and the home builders have ceased doing any kind of building at the moment, other than filling the current orders.
Right.
So we're not getting a big change in flow there.
hmm
Um, there's still average day on the market is about 60 days.
hmm
So if I were to help a client right now, I'd be certain to be looking at the days on the market to maybe give us a little bit more leverage to buy,
hmm
and argue a price reduction. So that could be helpful for a lot of people if they were in fact to get onto the game right now.
Right.
I think if you wait, we might be right back into the same problems.
hmm hmm So, in your experience, there was a little window, by the way. I lived in Scottsdale back when my daughter was young because she had some allergy issues, and we lived there for almost oh, it's 18 months we lived down there. It was in the deep dive of the recession, right? So I ended up having my license. I got my license down there, which was not easy to get, probably one of the most difficult licenses in the country, by the way, in my perspective. And that's what I was told. I thought the real estate down there was amazing. Like I love it down there. I think that there's such a beautiful aesthetic, and it is in all price points. Like you can be all over the board here. You can find something fabulous and have a second home for 4 to 600, or you can go into the luxury market as well. And I know you kind of play on all fronts. If you were to work with a client from a cold climate state, what would you recommend that they do? Like, what's your favorite play right now for those that are in northern climates that are looking at your market when you're meeting them? What are they looking at, and how is that inventory flow right now?
Okay, well, I think some of the things that a lot of people don't take a look at is what's really happening in just overall industry here.
Mhm.
We are an absolute hotbed for high tech now.
Yeah.
We are gaining more and more momentum. So if I were to be coaching someone, let's just talk strictly being an investor.
Right.
I
Let's do
would
that.
go ahead and fill you in on some of these businesses, just to give you a couple examples. And I pulled them up, but anybody can verify any of these things. But we are we are fast becoming or being looked at as going to be the number one chip manufacturer in the country and possibly pushing towards the world.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Taiwan,
That's crazy.
yeah, yeah, so Taiwan Semiconductor, which is
Mhm.
located near Peoria, there's a big subdivision called Anthem, which
Yep.
maybe a lot of people have heard of.
Mhm.
They're building a factory. Initially, they were going to start off with a $6 billion investment.
Mhm.
They increased it to $12 billion, and now they have pushed it all the way up to $40 billion.
Mhm.
This is going to be a game changer for that area of town,
For sure.
along with a lot of distribution. So that's just one example.
Mm.
We're also a hotbed for the driverless vehicles. We've got, I think, registered 10 companies that are doing driverless vehicles. You can actually hop into a vehicle right now in Chandler with no
Wow.
driver at all. I've done it.
Oh my
It's
god.
super fun, and people are they're a bit shocked when you FaceTime them, or if you're on your phone and you show them, they're it's almost disconcerting. But
Wow.
at the
I'd
same
be
time,
a
I
little
feel
worried.
very yeah, I feel very fortunate. But now, not only are they in Chandler, they just expanded to downtown Phoenix.
Hmm.
They're also this is Waymo, which is owned by Google. They are now also in San Francisco, which I also have a California license, and I work in the Bay Area
Oh,
part time.
interesting. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to this. Are you saying that is this like the future Uber? Like, what's the point? What are they
Uh,
doing
well,
here?
well, if you can well imagine, I have a night. I just got done celebrating with my family my mother's 90th, my 90th birthday.
Okay,
Um, she
congratulations to
has
her.
to call. She has to call, of course, taxis, services. This is a way for you to actually get picked up. Uh, you jump in the van, it brings you now. It's not in Rochester, Minnesota, but the whole idea of this is for cities like this to really become highly autonomous when it comes to the ride sharing and
Right.
going to the airport and things of that sort.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow,
So
that's crazy.
these are yeah, these are just a few of the areas. There's also one other area, as an example, out in Buckeye, and
Mhm.
that is way on the west side of Phoenix.
Yep, know it.
But Bill Gates, yeah, Bill Gates is looking at doing a smart city out there. He's already purchased the land. Back in
Interesting.
2017, he spent $80 million
Wow.
dollars.
Wow.
Um, Again, a very bold move. Nothing has gone on yet as far as the building, but I
Mm-hmm.
just saw that they just switched the title over to one of his other companies. And so they may be making ready to start, laying some possible, it's going to be a town about the size of Tempe. Tempe is about 170,000, just
Right.
as a rough number.
Right.
But that'll take years. I mean, it'll be starting off small with maybe 10,000 people, but it'll be skyscrapers and, data base it, industry, and it's going to be huge. It's going to be
So
huge.
I'm curious, Bill, what do you think the draw is when you look at, I mean, we have two different kinds of conversations that we'll delve into today, but as a city and a state, in terms of its growth model and its attraction, what do you think the number one driver is? Like, what is that about? Because there's some really
I think it
dynamic things.
really, yeah. So, for years, I've been here since 1989. So
Mhm.
I've watched a lot of changes.
Yeah.
It was where we were struggling to supply the high tech industry with labor. So
Hmm.
the schools, ASU, U of A, they all have highly educated, or I should say, programs for people to get into the high tech industry. So
Right.
now the draw is the fact that we have the labor to support these high tech jobs. And
Right.
not all of them are
Right.
high tech. I mean, when you talk about the semiconductor industry, you're going to have labor that will only require a high school education, but
Hmm.
they're going to have to know, like, maybe, Excel and some tech to it, but not a lot. That's a
Right.
low end job, probably the 40,000, 50,000 range. And then
Hmm.
you just go up to the astronomical seven-figure income for engineers and people who are at the higher end of that. So,
Hmm.
um, but we have a good, we really lost a lot of labor years ago from the housing industry,
Right.
and so now these jobs that are here are really getting more and more and more where you're going to have some kind of education to to
Hmm.
to be functional and really afford to live here.
So
So
always wondered because I have people that ask me about it. When you look at energy in that part of the country, and you look at water conversation, like as growth happens, finding your water, what's the conversation about that? Like, what do you share with people when they're looking at relocation and or a second home and or an investment? What are the long-term projections on managing energy and water in that area? I'm just curious your perspective on that.
wow, that is such a huge part of the conversation here at all times, and it
Hmm.
has been since I've been here.
Yeah.
Water. I have a very good friend who actually used to teach water rights at one of the local real estate schools,
Hmm.
Stan Strom,
Yeah.
and through the years, I've continued to stay in contact with him. We used to be business partners, and the big thing about water is that when it comes to building a home, and when you are, let's say, just Lennar, okay, if you're going to build a subdivision, each and every home has to have 100-year guaranteed water supply.
Hmm.
Okay, so that in itself, so you've got water allocation.
Right.
So they are not going to give you a permit without knowing that the water supply is going to be there. We're not just on the Colorado River water supply. We have aquifers here. We draw a lot of groundwater.
Hmm.
So today, I mean, I'm at an age where I don't know if I'll ever see it, but there may be uh, way down the road some issues, but it seems like there's a chess game going on, and I don't know. I'm no water, expert, but
Yeah.
I can just tell you that some of it is a little bit concerning to me
Hmm.
because I know they're, like the Indian reservation has given up some of their water rights, and then they lease those to some home home builders.
Right. I know.
So it's kind of that chess game of who's got the rights,
Mhm.
and who can build. There was a little bit of a story that happened about 2 weeks ago. I come to find out that a home builder is building homes for rental only. So the whole subdivision is going to be rental to
Okay.
just rentals.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
seeing more of that right now. It's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, and with that, because they're not selling the homes, they
Mhm.
don't need to guarantee the 100-year water
Oh,
supply.
interesting.
So I'm hoping not to see a lot of these big REITs and insurance funds come in here and start doing more and more of that, because really, at any given time, they could subdivide, go back to selling those homes, but then they're going to have to, reassure that 100-year water supply.
Right. I did not know
Does
that.
that make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's a huge
yeah.
security blanket for sure, because I do know that it comes up frequently, like the conversations I have for those that are looking to be a double state order, maybe make primary residence in Florida or Arizona. Those are the two, targeted states right now for this state of Minnesota in terms of second home ownership because of weather. It just happens. It's not unique to just us. The Midwest area is known for a very rooted, um, family dynamic where they're not going to ever leave. Like there's always going to be a home here. However, in that
Right.
length of life, they will buy something in a warm climate. And Arizona's on the top 3 list. And depending on who you talk to, the number 1 list. So it always comes up every conversation, believe it or not. Like, what do you think about the water down there? Like, is there gonna be water when I move? And I'm like, I think so. I
Yeah.
I do see there
I-
in our lifetime, I don't see that changing. I do see the same thing you see, Bill. I think that Mhm. There's something's going to have to give because they're continuing to expand on population, and there's absolutely a drought happening in that part of the country. That's a real thing. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I also have a very good friend of mine who is part of a development company. We had I have a lot of these conversations with people.
Yeah.
So part of this also is that, he made the point that when it comes to the household water supply, let's say it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, they figure on a family being there, right?
Mhm.
And then, of course, there's a certain amount of water that they'll use every day.
Right.
These estimates are way over what is being used.
Hmm.
We are very good at having complete, subdivisions with zero scaping, where it's got just cactus and very low water needed for,
Right.
landscaping, no big, lawns going in, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So, Arizona as a whole has really paid attention all along, ever since I've been here. And they're always pushing. I mean, even some of the cities will give you money to change your lawn out for xeriscaping.
Right. I
So it'd be
know.
rocks and cactus and that sort of
Mhm.
thing.
It's part of the sacrifice.
So
I don't want
it's
to say sacrifice. It's a beautiful aesthetic, but it is part of the agreement to living in a water or lack of a drought tolerant environment. That's part of the game of having the life down there.
right,
It's being
right.
kumbaya with Mother Nature. Like everybody's got their own thing, right? So that's one of them for Arizona.
There's a lot of artificial turf.
Yeah.
And the aesthetics, if you're looking talking about aesthetics, it's not bad. It really isn't. And there's all kinds of different ways of, kind of making yourself feel more removed from, but hey,
Mhm.
if you're going to be in the desert, why not
Embrace it.
accept that part of that, right?
Yeah, just
Right. Yeah. If
embrace it.
that's why you're going to keep your home in Minnesota.
Right.
right? So you can go back to the big trees and the grass and
Yeah.
you know, the
Snow.
different type of, yeah, right, right. So,
Yeah.
it's really, it really does come down to, most of the people have come down here as snowbirds or investors that, I mean, I sell homes to investors that they don't even ever really see the house other than
Yeah.
pictures
Yeah. There's
because
that
they're buying for the
conversation.
future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're buying for the future, so they're not really that wrapped up into but when it comes to rentals, I will tell you, I would highly recommend xeriscaping. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want your tenant pushing a mower because
No,
they're not going to do it.
no.
And
I agree.
all you're going to do is get fines from the HOA or from the city or both.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a good idea if you're investing to have something that's not going to be low maintenance. And that's just a
Yeah.
small part of investing, right?
Absolutely. Well,
So
let's talk about the
yeah,
investor right now. If you were to pick your
okay.
top three sections of the city to invest in Phoenix right now, whether they're looking for a second home or an investment, maybe they're two different pockets. I don't know, or multiple answers to this. Where would you recommend they look right now? If we were to say, Bill, we're sending you down a client and they are looking for something between 5 and 700, where would you be looking for that product right now?
Well, with 5 to 700, you could buy, closer to the center of town, overall Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
You could still buy in Scottsdale at that
Mm-hmm.
price. Now, you may need to eventually do some upgrades to it. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
it's fully upgraded, you're probably pushing the 800,000 range now in Scottsdale.
Yep.
But there are still houses to be had in the fives, sixes, and sevens. Um,
Okay.
but I think overall, if I were to be looking to invest, I would we refer to these as tertiary markets.
Mm-hmm.
So tertiary meaning third type markets.
Yep.
Casa Grande is a hotbed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is a brand new plant out there doing electric cars, Lucid.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Okay.
yeah, so we have these cars that Lucid is producing, they were supposed to produce somewhere around 15,000 cars this coming year.
Okay.
But they're only now projected to do 10,000, but they're
Mm.
getting their act together.
Yeah.
These cars are starting off at 90,000 and go all the way up to $200,000.
That's nuts.
It is nuts.
Powering them won't be a problem because you've got plenty of sunshine. So you just need those solar
That's
packs and you have electricity. I think one of the
yeah,
challenges with electric right now is power, right? But you guys are
right.
in a beautiful place with energy. I love Arizona for that reason, the green energy effort when it comes to solar, because you have that ability there. Not everybody does.
Right.
Solar's awesome.
And even given that, I think that the from what I'm reading and learning about electric cars, I don't have one myself. I have not pulled that trigger. I've considered it, but it's really when you're out on the road trying to find a charging station that's going to
Mhm.
charge you up fast enough and get you back going. It's not, to me right now, it's not worth it. But over
Mhm.
time, it might pan out that I buy something electric because hey, it's a good thing for the environment, at least,
Mhm.
to a certain degree. So, you can make arguments, I guess, all the way around, but
Mm.
they're here. There's a hydrogen plant out in that another tertiary market, which is Florence.
Oh,
Um,
interesting. Another great
Florence,
area.
yeah, and Florence. So this company invested, I think, right around 600 million, and they're powering buses with hydrogen, which is the
Huh.
cleanest, really the truly cleanest of, I think, all um, possible energy,
Mhm.
because it's just water is the end result after you're done with using hydrogen. So, or
Interesting.
hydrogen is water, in fact. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's where today we are continuing to go into these new areas, and we're drawing, and I think the state of Arizona has done a very good job in drawing these companies in, but also they do give them tax breaks
Mhm.
for limited time if they stick around. I know we've had in the past some bad actors that have taken advantage of the tax situation and then they pulled out
Right.
when tax time came. So
Mhm.
they're getting better and better at managing that liability when they if they do pull out.
Right. Okay. So let's talk like people in the country. It doesn't have to even be just Minnesota, because Scottsdale, Arizona specifically, which you work, is such a magnet, such a beautiful community, right?
Mhm.
So let's say you've got somebody from New York, you've got somebody maybe Atlanta, Minnesota, Wisconsin, anywhere in the country, and they are honed into buying something in Scottsdale, and they want a fairly decent piece of real estate. In your mind, what communities are a favorite, and what's your average sale price for that kind of product when you are really dissecting each little area? Because Scottsdale's a personal favorite of mine. And I think it's the first thing that pops up in people's minds when they're looking at that kind of product. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that probably the more popular one that everybody hears or most people will hear about is McCormick Ranch.
Okay. Yep. Love it. Mhm.
It's right in the center of both South Scottsdale and North Scottsdale.
Mhm.
So those are homes that were built, it's interesting. It's kind of the entire valley has been built somewhat like a tree where you've got the ring, the inner ring is built in the 60s, and then you go a little bit further away from that inner ring and you'll get into the 70s and
Mhm.
the 80s. So you'll see kind of like a storybook of time
Mhm.
on the architecture.
Yeah.
And so if you're a lover of older homes, Old Town Scottsdale, where
Mhm.
I live,
Yep.
is built in the 60s, right after, World War II.
Mhm.
Now, what you're going to give up there is for location, you're not going to have a big closet, unless, I mean, you can certainly modify these homes now to a
Right.
point where it's going to be more modern. But if you buy kind of that stock home, you're not going to have a walk-in closet. That's just not going to happen.
Cool. Yeah.
Your bathroom is going to be, you know, quite small. It's not going to be elaborate, and so you kind of have to move, further and further north to get into the more modern. So it depends on what you're looking for and what you want.
Right.
No HOAs though is a big plus when you come to Old Town. We
Mhm.
don't have to deal with the bylaws of a HOA. But
Right.
then when you get into McCormick Ranch, that's a master plan community and
Mhm.
is fully managed by an HOA.
Right.
So I think that there's considerations if you're not used to dealing with an HOA. Quite
Mhm.
honestly, I have a lot of clients that just absolutely hate it when they're controlled.
Yeah, I
If
know.
yeah,
Well,
so
and there's a huge faction of that whole area that is HOA operated. I mean, the
it
gated
is.
community is a real thing down there. It's the common thing.
Yeah,
It's more common than not. Like you're not the norm being in a non HOA community. That's most of it's HOA now
right.
in there and
Yeah,
gated.
and anything brand new is going to be HOA controlled,
Mhm. Absolutely.
guaranteed. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so those are things that, I mean, if you have a boat,
Mhm.
and you want to just park it in your driveway, that
Mhm.
is not happening for the HOA, right?
Right.
So, there's
Mhm.
and some of them are very tightly managed and some of them aren't. But
Mhm.
I will tell you that I've had plenty of experiences of talking to either friends or past clients about the enforcement, and it seems that most of the HOA people that are the officers don't have anything better to do, so they're gonna poke the bear and say, "Hey, you're not doing this or you're not doing that." So if you
Mhm.
don't like that sort of thing, I would automatically ask. I mean, I've got a whole list of questions that I like to get to know the client
Mhm.
and really understand what their likes and wants are, and if those are things that'll bother them, then let's not even look at an HOA.